What made fighting Germans so difficult for US soldiers in WWII? December 16, 1944, 4:30 in the morning. The Ardennes Forest, Belgium. Over 400,000 German soldiers surged through the darkness in almost total silence.
If the enemy opened up with a machine gun, Funk simply dropped into a crouch, took stock, and figured out how to make their day worse.
No artillery preparation, no airstrikes, no warning. American radar stations detect nothing unusual. Intelligence officers have assured commanders that the Germans lack the strength for major offensives. The Ardennes sector is considered quiet, a place to rest exhausted units and blood-inexperienced replacements. 8 American divisions hold an 80-mile front. Most are undermanned. Some have never seen combat. Then the forest erupts. Artillery shells scream overhead. Tank engines roar through the trees. German infantry pour through American positions before most defenders even reach their weapons. By sunrise, entire American units have been surrounded, cut off, annihilated. The Germans are outnumbered overall. They are outgunned. They are running critically low on fuel and ammunition. The war is clearly mathematically lost, yet here they are, launching the largest German offensive on the Western Front since 1940, catching the American army completely by surprise. How did they do this? The answer terrified American commanders when they finally understood it. Man for man, the average German soldier was more professionally dangerous than the average American soldier. Not more fanatical, not more brutal, more effective. This is the story of why fighting Germans was so difficult for American forces in World War II. The foundation of lethality. To understand why German soldiers were so dangerous, you need to answer a simple question. When did their training for war actually begin? If you answered when they enlisted, you are wrong by nearly a decade. German military preparation started at age 10. In the mid-1930s, as Hitler consolidated power, the Hitler Youth Organization was restructured from a political club into a pre-military training system. By 1937, the organization had established rifle schools across Germany. By 1938, over 1.5 million boys were receiving marksmanship training. By 1939, the German High Command was directly supervising their field exercises. These were not propaganda sessions. They were the first phase of military training. Boys learned to shoot, to navigate terrain, to work in small units, to follow orders under stress. By the time they reached draft age, they had spent years preparing for military service. Compare this to an American soldier arriving in Europe in 1944. Age 19. 3 to 4 months of total training. Basic training to teach discipline and physical fitness. Specialty training for his assigned role. Then deployment to a combat zone where everything he learned would be tested immediately against an enemy that had been preparing for this moment since childhood. But the length of training was only part of the problem. What German soldiers were trained to do created an even greater advantage. 12 minutes. Picture an American infantry squad advancing through a French village in the summer of 1944. Suddenly, machine gun fire erupts from a stone building 50 yards ahead. The squad dives for cover behind a low wall. The sergeant lies in the dirt, heart pounding. He has 8 men pinned down. The machine gun has them locked in place. Any movement draws fire. He does what he has been trained to do. He reaches for his radio. "Lieutenant, we have a machine gun nest. 2nd floor window. What are your orders?" The lieutenant receives the call. He is 200 yards back with the rest of the company. He cannot see the building, cannot assess the situation directly. So he does what he has been trained to do. He radios the captain. "Sir, third squad is pinned by machine gun fire, requesting orders." The captain pulls out his map, studies the grid coordinates, calculates fields of fire, makes a decision. He will call in artillery support. Better to use firepower than risk casualties in a direct assault. He makes the call to battalion. Artillery command acknowledges. They calculate firing solutions, adjust coordinates, load shells. 15 minutes have passed since that first burst of machine gun fire pinned the American squad. Now picture a different village, a different day. A German squad advancing through identical terrain. The same situation unfolds. Machine gun fire from a stone building. The squad takes cover. But the German sergeant does not reach for a radio. He is already scanning the building. Ground floor, second floor, windows, doors. Then he sees it. A basement window, half hidden, behind overgrown weeds. Dark, undefended. He catches the eye of his two best soldiers. No words, just hand signals. You and you. Around the left side. Basement window. I will suppress. The two soldiers move immediately. No hesitation. They have trained for this exact situation dozens of times. The sergeant opens fire on the second floor window, keeps the machine gun crew's attention forward. 30 seconds later, his two soldiers reach the basement window. One pulls a stick grenade, yanks the cord, counts 2 seconds, tosses it through the window. The explosion is muffled by stone walls, then silence. 3 minutes have passed since that first burst of machine gun fire. 12 minutes. That is the difference between waiting for permission and acting on initiative, between following a chain of command and trusting your sergeant to make the call. And here is what made it devastating for American forces. That 12-minute gap did not happen once. It happened in every firefight, every ambush, every unexpected contact. Those minutes accumulated. They turned into casualties. American soldiers waiting for orders, while German soldiers were already flanking, already repositioning, already attacking. American commanders saw the pattern in after-action reports. German units with fewer men were holding against larger American forces. German squads were reacting faster, adapting quicker. At first, they did not understand why. Then they discovered the truth. The Germans had a word for it. Off-tracks tactic, mission tactics. American officers told soldiers how to fight. German officers told soldiers what to accomplish. The difference sounds small. In combat, it was everything. Forged in hell. But training and doctrine only worked because of who was executing them. By 1944, most German soldiers defending France were not just trained professionals. They were veterans of the most brutal battlefield in human history. More people died fighting between Germany and the Soviet Union than in every other theater of World War II combined. German soldiers who survived Stalingrad, Kursk, and the massive Soviet offensives of 1943 had seen combat that made Normandy look like a training exercise. They knew how to fight when outnumbered. They knew how to fight when surrounded. They knew how to fight when supply lines were cut and ammunition was running low. Because on the Eastern Front, those conditions were normal. Winter combat, where frostbite killed as many men as bullets, where tanks froze solid overnight, where rifles jammed from ice buildup. Defensive battles, where Soviet attacks came in waves, overwhelming positions through sheer numbers. Retreats conducted under constant pressure with no rest, no resupply, no hope of reinforcement. These men learned lessons that could not be taught in any training program. How to stay calm when artillery shells are screaming overhead. How to make decisions when exhausted, terrified, and watching friends die. How to keep fighting when logic says The situation is hopeless. The average American soldier landing at Normandy had never been shot at, had never seen someone die violently. His first day of real combat was D-Day. He was facing men who had been in continuous combat for years. Effectiveness in defeat. What shocked American intelligence officers most was that German effectiveness did not decline as they started losing. In some ways, it increased. April 1945. Berlin. The Red Army surrounds the city with 2.5 million soldiers, 6,250 tanks, and 41,600 artillery pieces. The German defenders number perhaps 100,000, mostly old men and teenage Hitler youth. No air support, no hope of reinforcement, no chance of survival. Everyone knows the war is over. Hitler will be dead within weeks. Germany will surrender within days. So why fight? In 2 weeks of desperate street fighting, those doomed German defenders kill 81,116 Soviet soldiers and destroy 1,997 Soviet tanks. Let that sink in. A surrounded, under-equipped, vastly outnumbered force inflicts nearly 82,000 casualties on an enemy that has already won the war. That statistic captures everything about German tactical effectiveness. Losing the war, winning individual battles. The buzzsaw. German weapons reinforced the advantage their training and experience created. The MG-42 machine gun became legendary among American soldiers who faced it. They called it Hitler's buzzsaw. Rate of fire, 1,200 rounds per minute. You could not hear individual shots, just a continuous tearing sound like fabric ripping. The American BAR, the standard squad automatic weapon, fired 500 to 600 rounds per minute. The MG-42 fired twice as fast. American soldiers learned to recognize the sound instantly. That high-pitched ripping noise meant death was coming at 20 rounds per second. In Normandy, hedgerow fighting, a single MG-42 positioned at a field corner could pin down an entire American platoon. Soldiers who tried to advance were cut down before they could move 3 steps. The gun could fire long, sustained bursts without overheating. German crews would fire for 30 seconds straight, sweep the entire field, then pause and wait for movement. But raw firepower was only part of the story. German squad tactics were built around the machine gun. Riflemen supported it, provided security for it, carried ammunition for it. The entire squad existed to get the MG-42 into position and keep it firing. The tank myth. Everyone has heard the myth. It took 5 Shermans to kill 1 Tiger tank. The story has been repeated so often it has become accepted fact. There is only one problem. It is not true. The myth comes primarily from one source, a book called Death Traps by Belton Cooper. Historians consider it unreliable. The actual data tells a very different story. A 1946 U.S. Army study examined tank versus tank engagements across the European theater. In battles between Shermans and German Panthers, considered superior to Tigers in most categories, the Sherman achieved a kill ratio of 3.6 to 1 in favor of the Sherman. Not the other way around. British after-action reports across all tank engagements showed Allied forces inflicted 1.3 casualties for each Sherman loss. Again, advantage to the Allies. In a frontal engagement at long range, yes, the Sherman was at a disadvantage against heavy German armor, but American doctrine did not rely on frontal engagements. Flank it, call air support, use tank destroyers, fight smart, not fair. And here is the critical fact everyone forgets. Tigers were rare. Germany produced fewer than 1,400 of them during the entire war. Most German tanks were Panzer IVs, which Shermans fought on relatively even terms. The real Sherman advantage was reliability and numbers. For every Tiger Germany produced, America made 10 Shermans. When a Sherman broke down, another arrived within days. When a Tiger broke down, it was often abandoned because repair parts did not exist. The paradox of abundance. Despite better logistics, better production, and overwhelming numbers, American soldiers still took devastating casualties against German forces. Why? Because American abundance created a hidden weakness. When American units needed artillery support, hundreds of guns could respond. Air support came in squadrons. Replacement tanks arrived within days. This firepower was decisive in the long run, but it made American units slower in individual battles. German units traveled light and moved fast. When they identified an opportunity, they exploited it immediately. A German battalion could pack up and move to a new position in 2 hours. An equivalent American unit needed 6 hours to coordinate with supporting artillery, arrange air cover, and ensure supply lines could follow. American units often waited for supplies, coordinated with supporting arms, moved methodically. This caution saved American lives overall, but it gave German forces time to retreat, regroup, and prepare counterattacks. A German commander described the pattern perfectly. Americans would spend the morning calling in artillery. By afternoon, German forces had already withdrawn to new positions 3 kilometers back. At the Battle of the Bulge, Germany committed nearly 500,000 men to a desperate offensive everyone knew could not succeed strategically. Yet in the opening days, German units advanced rapidly, surrounding American positions, creating chaos. A veteran described it perfectly. You could beat them in the morning, and they would be on you in the afternoon. While American units were consolidating positions and bringing up supplies, German units were already moving to the next objective. Winter Hell, January 1945. The coldest January ever recorded in Western Europe. American soldiers fighting in the Ardennes were not just fighting Germans. They were fighting weather that could kill them without an enemy firing a shot. 23,000 American soldiers became trench foot casualties in 2 months. Your feet get wet. Stay wet in freezing temperatures. The flesh begins to rot, turns black. In severe cases, amputation is the only option, and you are trying to fight while your feet are dying. German soldiers had been fighting in winter conditions for years on the Eastern Front. They knew how to prevent cold weather injuries. They knew how to maintain weapons in freezing temperatures. They knew how to keep vehicles operational when metal became brittle and fuel gelled in the cold. American soldiers were learning these lessons while suffering casualties from conditions their enemy had already mastered. Malmedy. There was one psychological factor that changed everything for American soldiers. Before December 17, 1944, many Americans felt conflicted about killing Germans. Many had German ancestry, German last names. You would capture a German soldier and realize he looked like someone from your hometown. Then came Malmedy, December 17, 1944, one day into the Battle of the Bulge. A convoy from the 285th Field Artillery Observation Battalion runs into the spearhead of an SS armored battle group near the Bonnier Crossroads. The Americans are rear echelon troops, artillery observers, radio operators, not equipped for combat against tanks. After a brief engagement, 113 Americans surrender. They are disarmed, lined up in a farmer's field, hands raised. Then the SS opens fire. Machine guns, rifles, pistols. They shoot the prisoners down like animals. Men who try to run are hunted. Men who fall wounded are finished with shots to the head. 84 Americans die in that field. Some survivors played dead, lying in the snow for hours with German boots walking past them. When darkness comes, 43 men crawl away and make it back to American lines. The news spreads through the American army like wildfire. After Malmedy, German soldiers, especially SS troops, could expect no mercy. American units passed down orders. No SS prisoners. The professional respect that had existed between enemies vanished. Why Germany lost? If German soldiers were more effective man for man, why did they lose? 3 reasons. Strategy. Hitler's insanity turned tactical skill into strategic disaster. At Tarnopol in March 1944, Hitler declared the Ukrainian city a fortress that must be held at all costs. The first commander assessed the situation and messaged Hitler that the position was hopeless. Hitler fired him immediately. For a month, 4,600 German soldiers held against overwhelming Soviet forces. When the battle ended, 4,545 were dead or wounded, a 99% casualty rate. Professional soldiers wasted in a meaningless stand because Hitler refused to allow tactical retreats. The same pattern repeated across the Eastern Front. At the Battle of the Bulge, Germany committed its last strategic reserves to an offensive everyone knew could not succeed. Those troops could have defended Germany itself. Instead, they were spent in the Ardennes. Logistics. Germany could not match Allied production. One Liberty ship launched every day from American shipyards. One bomber rolled off American assembly lines every hour from a single factory. By 1944, the United States was producing more war material than all Axis powers combined. German tanks were often superior in individual combat, but better does not matter when you are outnumbered 10-1 and your supply lines are being systematically destroyed by air power. Numbers. America could replace losses. Germany could not. Every veteran German soldier killed was irreplaceable. Every experienced sergeant, every trained officer represented years of investment that could not be recovered. American casualties, however devastating to individual units and families, could be made good with fresh troops from across the Atlantic. By 1945, Germany was drafting 16-year-old boys and 60-year-old men. The manpower reserve was exhausted. German soldiers were let down by German leadership. American soldiers who fought Germans came away respecting them, not as Nazis, as soldiers. One veteran said it simply: "You had not been in a war unless you had fought the Germans." Legacy. After the war, American officers studied German tactics extensively. They began adopting mission-oriented command structures, decentralized decision-making, NCO initiative. The modern US military uses concepts borrowed directly from German doctrine. The Germans lost the war, but their approach to warfare influenced armies for generations. What made fighting them so difficult was not fanaticism or brutality. It was professional competence, built on years of training, combat experience, and a doctrine that empowered individual soldiers to make decisions under fire. American firepower and logistics eventually overwhelmed German tactical skill. Quality lost to quantity, but the quality was real, and every American soldier who faced German forces in combat never forgot it.